AITA for kicking my roommate out after I found out the truth about her? I never thought I'd be the kind of person to post on Reddit. I always figured my life was too boring, too normal. But something happened recently that I can't explain. Something that's been gnawing at me for weeks, and I need to get it off my chest. So here goes. I'm a 29-year-old guy living in a quiet neighborhood just outside the city. Nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom apartment with decent lighting, a small balcony, and enough space to feel like I'm not suffocating. I work in tech, mostly remote, which means I spend a lot of time at home. Too much time, maybe. And about 10 months ago, I decided to rent out my spare bedroom. Not for the money, really, I'm doing fine, but for the company. Living alone was starting to feel like a slow descent into madness. I needed someone around, someone to talk to, someone to share space with. Enter Clara. She responded to my online ad within hours of posting it. Her message was polite, articulate, and somehow warm, like she knew exactly how to make a stranger feel comfortable. We met for coffee the next day, and I was sold. She was 27, worked in marketing, had just moved to the area, and needed a place fast. She was clean, respectful, and even offered to sign a lease on the spot. I told her that wouldn't be necessary. We could do month to month and see how it went. From day one, Clara was perfect. I mean that literally. She kept her space immaculate. She paid rent early. She baked cookies on weekends, actual homemade cookies, the kind that made the whole apartment smell like a bakery. She asked before inviting people over, always cleaned up after herself, and even watered my plants when I forgot. It was like living with a character from a feel-good sitcom. I started to wonder if I'd hit the roommate jackpot. But then, things started to shift. It was subtle at first. So subtle I didn't even register it as weird. Just little things. A yogurt missing from the fridge. Package arriving with my name on it already opened. My phone charger vanishing from my desk, only to reappear 2 days later in the exact same spot. I chalked it up to forgetfulness. Maybe I'd eaten the yogurt and didn't remember. Maybe I'd opened the package and left it on the counter. Maybe I'd misplaced the charger and found it later. I told myself I was being paranoid. But the thing about paranoia is, sometimes it's just early awareness. One night, I came home late from a client meeting. Clara was already in her room, door closed, lights off. I tiptoed into the kitchen to grab a drink and noticed something strange. My favorite mug, the one I always kept on the top shelf, was sitting in the sink, dirty, with lipstick on the rim. Clara doesn't wear lipstick, at least not that I've ever seen. I stared at the mug for a long time. It wasn't just the lipstick. It was the fact that I hadn't used that mug in days. I was sure of it. I reached up to the top shelf, and sure enough, it was empty. Someone had taken it down, used it, put it in the sink. And it wasn't me. I didn't say anything the next morning. I didn't want to seem crazy, but I started paying closer attention. And that's when things got unsettling. I began keeping a mental inventory of my belongings. Not obsessively, just casually. My watch, my keys, my headphones, my favorite hoodie. I'd note where I left them and check back later. And more often than not, something would be off. My watch would be on the bathroom counter instead of my nightstand. My hoodie would be folded on the couch when I was sure I'd left it on the chair. My headphones would be plugged into Clara's laptop charger. I started to feel like I was living in a haunted house, except the ghost was polite and baked cookies. One afternoon, I came home early from a grocery run. Clara wasn't expecting me. I walked in and heard movement from my room. My room. I froze. The door was slightly ajar. Pushed it open slowly, heart pounding. Clara was standing by my desk, holding my notebook. She looked up, startled. "Oh, hey, I was just looking for a pen. I thought I saw one in here the other day." I nodded slowly. "You could have asked." She smiled, sheepish. "Sorry, I didn't want to bother you." I didn't say anything else. Just took the notebook from her and left the room. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment in my head. The way she looked when I caught her. Not guilty, not scared, just surprised. Like she hadn't expected me to be home. Like she'd been caught in the middle of something, but wasn't sure what. I started locking my door. Not just when I left the apartment, when I was inside, when I was working, when I was sleeping. I bought a small camera and installed it discreetly on my bookshelf, facing the door, just in case. I didn't tell Clara. I didn't tell anyone. And then 3 days later, I got my first piece of footage. It was 2:17 a.m. Clara opened my door. Quietly, carefully. She stepped inside, walked over to my desk, and picked up my watch. She held it for a moment, then put it back. She looked around the room, touched the edge of my bookshelf, and left. I watched the video 5 times. She didn't take anything. She didn't move anything. She just looked, like she was inspecting the space, like she was trying to memorize it. I didn't confront her. I didn't know how. What do you say to someone who's sneaking into your room in the middle of the night and touching your things, but not stealing them? What do you say to someone who's perfect on paper, but feels increasingly like a stranger? I started keeping a journal, writing down everything, every odd moment, every misplaced item, every time Clara said something that didn't quite add up. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just knew something was wrong. And then, last week, I found something I wasn't supposed to. I was cleaning the living room, vacuuming behind the couch, when I noticed a small tear in the fabric. I reached in to see if anything had fallen inside and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a list. My name was at the top. Below it, in Clara's handwriting, were dozens of bullet points. Notes, observations. Wakes up at 7:30. Prefers almond milk. Leaves laptop unattended during lunch. Keeps spare key in drawer. Talks in sleep. I stared at the list for a long time. It wasn't just creepy. It was detailed, intimate, like she'd been studying me, like I was a project, or worse, a target. I haven't confronted her yet. I don't know how to. I don't know what she wants. I don't know what she's planning. But I know this. Clara isn't who I thought she was. And I'm starting to think I was never supposed to find out. This is just the beginning. It's been a week since I found the list. The one Clara wrote. The one with my name at the top and all those eerie little notes about my habits, my routines, my preferences. I've read it so many times now, I could recite it from memory. And every time I do, I feel a little less safe in my own home. But I haven't confronted her. Not yet. I've been trying to act normal. Smiling when she walks into the kitchen. Making small talk about the weather. Pretending I don't notice when she glances at my bedroom door a little too long. I'm playing a role now, one I didn't audition for. The unsuspecting roommate. The oblivious Mark. But I'm not oblivious anymore. And last night, something happened that made everything worse. It was around 6:30 p.m. I'd left work early. Client canceled last minute, and I figured I'd beat Clara home. But when I walked into the apartment, I heard something strange. A voice, soft, muffled, coming from my room. I froze in the hallway, heart pounding. The door was slightly ajar. I crept closer, careful not to make a sound. And that's when I heard it clearly. Clara was whispering. Not to me, not on the phone. Just whispering. Alone. In my room. I pushed the door open slowly, and what I saw made my stomach drop. She was sitting on the edge of my bed, holding my childhood photo album. The one I kept tucked away in the bottom drawer of my nightstand. The one I hadn't looked at in years. She was staring at a photo of me as a kid, maybe 5 or 6 years old, wearing a superhero costume and grinning at the camera. Her lips were moving, but I couldn't make out the words. When she saw me, she jumped. "Oh," she said, laughing nervously. "You scared me." I didn't say anything, just stared at her. She held up the album. "I was just curious. I saw this in your drawer the other day and thought it was sweet. You were such a cute kid." I nodded slowly. "You were in my room." She shrugged. I know. I shouldn't have. I don't know. I wanted to know more about you." I didn't respond. Couldn't. My mind was racing. She stood up, handed me the album, and walked past me like nothing had happened. But something had. Something I couldn't explain. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the way she was whispering. The way she looked at that photo. The way she said she wanted to know more about me. It didn't feel like curiosity. It felt like obsession. I checked the camera footage again. She'd been in my room 3 times that week. Always late at night. Always quiet. Sometimes she'd just stand there. Sometimes she'd touch things. My books, my clothes, my framed photos. Once, she sat on my bed for 20 minutes, staring at the wall. I started locking everything. Not just my door, my drawers, my closet, even my laptop. I changed all my passwords, hid my spare key. I stopped leaving anything out. But it didn't matter. Clara always found a way in. And then, 2 nights ago, I woke up to a sound. A soft click, like a door closing. I sat up, heart racing, and listened. Footsteps, in the hallway, heading toward the kitchen. I got out of bed, grabbed my phone, and tiptoed to the door. I opened it slowly and peeked out. Clara was standing in the kitchen, staring into the fridge. She didn't move, didn't reach for anything, just stood there, bathed in the pale blue light. I watched her for a full minute before she turned around. She didn't look surprised to see me. She smiled. "Couldn't sleep," she said. "Thought I'd grab a snack." I nodded. "You didn't take anything." She tilted her head. "Guess I wasn't hungry after all." Then she walked past me and went back to her room. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, staring into the fridge, trying to understand what was happening, trying to make sense of the unease that had taken root in my chest. And then I noticed something. My childhood photo album was sitting on the counter. I hadn't moved it. I hadn't touched it since Clara handed it to me. I opened it slowly. The photo she'd been whispering to was gone. Just gone. I checked every page, every pocket, every drawer in my room. It wasn't there. I haven't asked her about it. I don't want to, because I'm starting to think Clara isn't just curious. I think she's watching me, studying me, and maybe even becoming me. This is far from over. I didn't sleep much after the photo album incident. Every creak in the floorboards, every flicker of light under her door, it all felt loaded. Like Clara wasn't just living in my apartment anymore. She was living in my head. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I bought a motion-activated camera. It was small, discreet, and legal where I live. I tucked it behind a stack of books on my shelf, angled toward my dresser and closet. I didn't tell anyone. Not my friends. Not my family. Definitely not Clara. I just needed proof. Something to confirm what I already knew but couldn't admit out loud. Clara was crossing a line. And it wasn't just about boundaries anymore. It was about control. The next day, I went to work like usual. Tried to focus. Tried to pretend everything was normal. But around 2:14 p.m., I got a notification on my phone. Motion detected. I opened the app and watched the footage. Clara had entered my room. Again. She moved slowly, deliberately, walked straight to my dresser, opened the top drawer, pulled out a few shirts, my favorite ones, the ones I wore most often, and laid them out on the bed. Then she took out her phone and started photographing them, one by one. She didn't rush. She didn't hesitate. She adjusted the lighting, smoothed out the fabric, zoomed in on the tags. I watched in stunned silence. She wasn't stealing. She wasn't even touching anything else. She was documenting, cataloging, like she was building a replica or preparing for something. I felt sick. When I got home that night, Clara was in the kitchen, humming to herself. She looked up and smiled when she saw me. "Hey, how was work?" I didn't answer. I walked straight to her and said, "Why were you in my room today?" Her smile faltered. "What? I saw you," I said. "On camera. You were taking pictures of my clothes." She went pale. Her hands trembled slightly as she set down her mug. "I can explain." But I didn't let her. "I don't want an explanation," I said. "I want you out. End of the month. If you go into my room again, I'll contact the landlord. And the police." She stared at me for a long time, then nodded. "I understand." She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She didn't argue. She just accepted it, like she'd known this moment was coming, like she'd already prepared for it. That night, I locked my door and pushed a chair under the handle. I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about the way she looked at my clothes, the way she photographed them, the way she said, "I can explain," like there was a story behind it, a reason, a logic. But I didn't want to hear it. Not yet. Because deep down, I was afraid of what that explanation might be. Was she trying to become me? Was she studying me for something? Was I part of a game I didn't know I was playing? The next morning, Clara was gone. Not permanently, just out early. Her room was empty, her bed made, her laptop missing. I checked my camera footage again. Nothing new, no movement, no intrusion. But something felt off, like the silence was too loud, like the calm was manufactured. I started checking my things obsessively. My drawers, my closet, my laptop, my journals. Everything was where I left it. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Clara had left something behind. Not physically, emotionally, psychologically. She'd embedded herself into my routines, my habits, my space. And even though I'd told her to leave, I wasn't sure she ever really would. Because Clara wasn't just a roommate anymore. She was a presence, a shadow, and I was starting to wonder if she'd ever truly been real. The apartment felt different after I told Clara to leave. Not quieter. She was never loud to begin with, but heavier, like the air had thickened, like every corner of the space had absorbed the tension between us and didn't know how to let it go. Clara barely spoke to me after that night. She packed slowly, methodically, one drawer at a time. She avoided eye contact, kept her door closed, and spent hours on her phone. I'd hear her typing late into the night, whispering occasionally, sometimes laughing softly to herself. But she never spoke to me directly, not once, and I didn't push. I just wanted her gone. I counted down the days until the end of the month like I was waiting for a storm to pass. I kept my door locked, my camera running, my guard up. I didn't want any more surprises. No more photo albums. No more whispered confessions. No more invasions. But Clara had one last surprise. On her final night in the apartment, I heard a soft rustle outside my door. I waited a few seconds, then opened it. An envelope was lying on the floor. No name, no markings, just plain white, sealed shut. I picked it up and stared at it for a long time. I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of one last word, one last twist, one last moment of control. But curiosity is a powerful thing. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten, neat, careful script, the kind of handwriting that looks practiced, intentional. It read, "I'm sorry for not telling you sooner. I didn't know how. I hope someday you'll understand. I never meant to hurt you. I just wanted to feel close to someone again." That was it. No signature, no explanation, no context, just that. I read it 3 times. The first time I felt nothing, just annoyance, frustration, the kind of irritation you feel when someone tries to make themselves the victim after crossing a line. The second time I felt confused. What did she mean by again? Had she done this before? Was I part of a pattern? A cycle? The third time I felt something else. Unease, because the wording felt unfinished. Like she'd started to confess something but couldn't bring herself to say it. Like she wanted me to know, but not yet. Not directly. I just wanted to feel close to someone again. It echoed in my head for hours. I thought about the list she made, the photos she took, the way she whispered to my childhood pictures, the way she watched me, studied me, moved through my space like she was trying to absorb it. It wasn't just obsession. It was longing, desperation, like she was trying to recreate something, or someone. I started wondering if Clara had lost someone, a brother, a boyfriend, a friend, someone who looked like me, lived like me, someone she couldn't let go of. Was I a replacement? A stand-in? A living replica of someone she couldn't stop missing? I didn't sleep that night. I kept the letter on my desk, staring at it like it might change, like the words might rearrange themselves and give me the answers I needed. But they didn't. The next morning, Clara was gone. Her room was empty. Her key was on the counter. Her scent lingered faintly in the hallway, lavender and something else I couldn't place. I walked into her room for the first time since she moved in. It was spotless. Too spotless. No dust. No clutter. No forgotten items. Just a bare mattress and a folded blanket. But then I noticed something. Tucked behind the radiator, half hidden in the shadows, was a small notebook. I picked it up. It was filled with sketches. Of me. Not detailed portraits, just outlines. Silhouettes. Poses. Me sitting at my desk. Me drinking coffee. Me walking down the hallway. Dozens of them. All dated. All labeled. Some had notes. He looks tired today. He smiled at the barista. He wore the blue shirt again. I felt my throat tighten. This wasn't just observation. It was documentation. Like she was building a character. Or preserving one. I flipped to the last page. There was a single sentence. I hope he never finds out who I really am. I dropped the notebook. I didn't know what to think. Was Clara hiding a past? A secret identity? A mental illness? Was she someone else entirely? I don't know. I still don't. But I do know this. Clara wasn't just a roommate. She was a mystery, and I'm starting to think the story isn't over. Not yet. It's strange how silence can feel louder than noise. After Clara left, the apartment felt hollow. Not just empty, vacant. Like something had been extracted from the walls, the air, the rhythm of my days. I kept expecting to hear her humming in the kitchen, or smell her cookies baking on a Sunday afternoon. But there was nothing, just me, and the echo of everything I didn't understand. I tried to move on. I boxed up the notebook she left behind, tossed the letter under my door, and rearranged the furniture in her room like that would somehow erase her presence. I told myself it was over, that whatever game she was playing had ended. But then came the knock. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I opened the door expecting a delivery. Instead, I found a woman in a dark blazer, holding a folder and a quiet kind of authority. She introduced herself as a private investigator. I didn't speak. I just waited. And then she said something that changed everything. Clara wasn't just your roommate. She was hired to watch you. I felt the world tilt. She was hired by your father, the woman continued. Your biological father. The one you haven't seen in over a decade. Couldn't breathe. He's been sick. Terminal. Pancreatic cancer. He didn't have much time left, and he wanted to make sure you were okay. Safe. Stable. Not involved in anything dangerous. Clara was supposed to observe you discreetly and report back. I sat down, stunned. She liked you, the investigator said, more than she was supposed to. She stopped reporting. She felt guilty. That's why she left. I didn't know what to feel. Anger? Betrayal? Relief? Because suddenly, everything made sense. The list, the photos, the whispering, the letter. She wasn't trying to become me. She was trying to understand me, to protect me, to fulfill a promise. 3 days later, I got another letter. This one was from my father's lawyer. He had passed away, and he'd left me everything. A substantial inheritance. Enough to change my life. Enough to start over. Enough to forgive. The letter was short. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I wanted to be. I just didn't know how. I hope Clara helped in some way. Take care of yourself. Dad. I read it over and over. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just sat there, trying to reconcile the man who left me with the man who sent someone to watch over me. Trying to understand Clara's role in all of it. Trying to decide if I hated her or missed her. And now, weeks later, I keep asking myself the same question. AITA for kicking her out without letting her explain? I didn't know the truth. I didn't know she was trying to help. I didn't know she was caught between duty and emotion. But I also didn't feel safe. I felt watched, studied, manipulated. And maybe that's the real tragedy. Because Clara wasn't just a spy. She was a person who got too close. A person who tried to protect me. A person who left before she could say goodbye. And now I'll never know what she would have said.